Virginia Tech and UCLA not only need head coaches, they need to find a way to keep players from entering the transfer portal and keep recruits from decommitting.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And boy, do we have a bonus episode for you today. With everything that's happened, the dust has settled enough. It's time to break down Virginia Tech and UCLA. Not only did they lose Brent Pry, DeShaun Foster, there's going to be concerns about players entering the transfer portal. I'm going to explain why that's a problem throughout the show. But game 4, remember, players can redshirt. We're going to get into that, and both of them are entering that time frame where game 4 is coming up. We need to discuss that. And there's also recruits. Both of these schools have lost recruits. UCLA more than Virginia Tech so far, but we begin, no doubt about it, with the coaching searches. I want to start with Virginia Tech because there's a very unique circumstance behind the Hokies head job. Beamer ball, blue collar, lunch pail, all those things I remember as I grew up watching college football. Frank Beamer was the epitome of building something from nothing. When he took over that job in the 1980s, they were terrible, absolutely terrible. And he built it into one of the best programs in college football and nearly won the 1999 national title. Now it's a program on the skids, and it is 11th in the ACC in football spending. That's right, 11th. That is concerning. That could also impact who they hire. But his son, Shane Beamer, is right down the road at the University of South Carolina. An afterthought program in the SEC for a long time. He's done a good job there. He's done better than anybody since Spurrier. And most importantly, he's young enough, he has enough charisma, and he has the Beamer name. You have to go after him if you're Virginia Tech. It can stop the bleeding with recruiting. They already lost an in-state offensive tackle they could not afford to lose. They also have a situation where players on the roster, as I mentioned a minute ago in the intro, there are going to be guys looking around, where am I going to be next? I don't know who the next head coach is. Beamer would at least give you some plausible ability to say, hey, at least hear this guy out before you hit the transfer portal. And finally, just recruiting in general, he's done a very good job at South Carolina. But here are my questions for South Carolina. Number 1, are you open-endedly, on record, on video, on paper, all the above, going to make it clear to Beamer and all the Hokie faithful that you're willing to spend completely differently than you have been recently? You can't just say it in a back room. You have to go on record and saying your spending is going to get up there with Clemson, Florida State, etc. If not, in my opinion, I don't think he'll leave. Why would you go somewhere where you're handcuffed? I get that he is an alum. I get that he is all of those things. But do you really want to do that if you're Beamer? South Carolina spends money. South Carolina spends a lot of money. They're bringing in kids from D.C. They're bringing in kids from Florida. They're bringing in kids from Atlanta. South Carolina is a program on the rise. So why would he leave to go beyond just, again, the obvious connection? It's a fascinating discussion. And here's the other part. While he's in the middle of the season, he's not going to announce that he's taking that job. I understand. Could South Carolina find somebody else in the meantime that's maybe not working, or maybe they're a coordinator in the NFL, whatever. Maybe they like them better. All those things are plausible too. It's a lot of what ifs. The Virginia Tech job has not just a few interesting side pieces. It's fascinating. All levels of football are impacted here. And the roster, again, for those who don't know, I might as well just dive into this now. And this is the same deal with UCLA as I break it down in a moment. 4 games or less. If you play in 4 or less, you can redshirt that year. Can you find a way to keep kids, if you're Virginia Tech, and to help sell Beamer, Go ahead and play out this year. We need to be decent, blah, blah, blah. But we want you here at Virginia Tech. Maybe some of them are like, I'm definitely redshirting no matter what. Maybe you can still keep them. So the next coach, whether it's Beamer or somebody else, they play for him. I'm concerned that Virginia Tech, because they didn't look like they had any effort at all against Vandy. Like, yeah, it was done. They looked horrible in that second half. Outscored, what was it, 34-0? I mean, it was just garbage. They need to get kids to recommit, or else they're not going to have a very easy time getting Beamer or anybody else that they want. But here are a few other names in general. Alex Golish. He is currently the head coach at USF. He was at Tennessee as a coordinator. I think he would be a very good hire. Not saying he would be perfect. He's done a pretty good job, though, at a USF. And when he took that program over, it was bad. Maybe he's the guy. If not him, the guy that I think is the most likely is Glenn Schumann. He is Kirby's right-hand man at the University of Georgia. Elite linebacker coach, tremendous recruiter, somebody that interviewed at the University of North Carolina before Bill Belichick got that gig. I think he would be a great fit. He knows the area. He has recruited Virginia, Maryland, Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, all the areas around where they recruit, because he recruits for Georgia and they are national, and he's just an excellent teacher. They also could maybe get John Summerall. He's the head coach at Tulane. Very good coach, but the G6 level, like, is it ready to take that jump at a school like that for money to make them viable for the playoff every year? And does he want that every year? Does he want the challenge of P4? My guess is he wants P4. Summerall's a possibility. Dan Mullen, I know he just got to UNLV, but I could see it. Just want to mention his name. Those are some of the candidates. But again, the number one overriding factor here is money. Is Virginia Tech ready to commit to spending money at an elite level to draw somebody in like Mullen, like Beamer, like Schumann, whether it's Golish? I don't care who it is. All of them are going to want to know that, and rightfully so. Now let's talk about UCLA, because they have maybe even bigger problems financially. Part of the Cal school system, it's in the red big time. DeShaun Foster, when he started at UCLA last year, made $3 million a year. Now that's a lot of money, but in the college football world at the FBS level, it's not. If they're not going to spend at a regular clip, they're not going to get where they need to go. To that end, Tony White, the defensive coordinator at Florida State, I think wholeheartedly is somebody they could get and is a legitimate candidate. Very good coach, an alum, played at UCLA in the late 90s, early 2000s. He could be that guy, but he wants to know they're going to commit financially. It's the same deal. UCLA has been extremely cheap with coaching decisions and doing things around the program in terms of facilities and upgrades. This is a problem. Will UCLA openly commit? And I'm not talking about, again, just like with Virginia Tech, not backroom commit on television. Put your face in front of the TV, not some manufactured letter written up by a bunch of lawyers getting billable hours. On TV, we are going to commit to be and fill in the blank, the fifth best program in the Big Ten in terms of financial commitment directly to football, something like that. They still might be able to get Tony White, but the other names I'm about to mention, they can kiss goodbye. He has a direct tie to UCLA. It's expensive to live there. Not many people want to deal with the traffic in LA. It's not as easy a gig to get somebody to go to UCLA as some might think. So Jonathan Smith has West Coast ties. He's at Michigan State, but he hasn't been there long. Maybe, but there's no doubt in my mind, at least, Michigan State's got the higher trajectory right now until, again, finances change. Jeb Fish at Washington, another guy that's coached on the West Coast, but he has ties to Florida. That's where he is a grad. I think he's the leading candidate at UF. Good luck with that. Brent Brennan, this is a wild card here. I think he's a pretty good coach. Head coach at Arizona, that's a possibility. He's recruited pretty well. He's done a great job with their offense. I think that's a solid choice. Dan Mullen, again, is an opportunity. And don't forget about Will Stein. He's the offensive coordinator at Oregon. Those are just some of the names that I've bandied about on different websites and just came to the top of my head. They were all possibilities. But Virginia Tech and UCLA both have the same issue. They have to spend more money, and they got to be face forward with it. They're not going to get these people to come and interview seriously unless they know there's a commitment financially. And that's also going to impact the recruiting and the transfer portal situation. We talk about that next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Mazda. You can just move through life, or you can find the things that move you. It's your choice. You can choose to get out there, choose your people. You can choose to go for it, like really go for it. Just choose to do something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Mazda, move and be moved. This show is also brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. DoorDash is a great opportunity for you on the weekends if you're not going to the game, and it's almost the weekend again. So time to look back at this week's MVP. Who delivered? I'm going with Gunnar Stockton here. Somebody that I hadn't talked enough about. He threw one of the best balls on a fourth down play in a money situation you're ever going to see. And just like DoorDash, he delivered. Talking about Gunnar Stockton, that fourth down pass for the Georgia football program was game-changing and perhaps season-changing. So just like Gunnar came through, so does DoorDash for you. DoorDash Streaks, in fact, every Saturday when you order, you stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Just check out DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo code is good through 11/18. We're also brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Monarch Money is a place where you can get things in order and quickly, and most people don't even know how to name all their financial accounts right now, 401ks and everything else. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal financial tool that brings the entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you're somebody that needs to get everything in one place to kind of help you understand how to manage your money for retirement, maybe for your grandkids, maybe for your wife, whatever it may be, Monarch is there for you. Don't let financial opportunity fall through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am Brian Smith, longtime recruiting analyst, and I'm ready to dive into all the recruiting stuff that's getting ready to happen. But for every show, this next statement is very important. The 4-game rule. I want to bring this back up. Any coach out there that's struggling, whether they're fired already, like Pry or Foster, players that hold out and have played in 4 or fewer games can redshirt. So let's talk about that. Virginia Tech has a game against Wofford coming up. Wouldn't be surprising if a lot of the players still played in that game, but that's game 4. They're eligible to do so. But a lot of them might be magically injured. Why is that? They don't want to get hurt, especially in a meaningless game, because obviously Virginia Tech's not going anywhere, and they're thinking about transferring. If Virginia Tech's list of injuries is bad this week, like it's really high, don't be surprised. There might be a lot of players that know they're leaving and are just not going to announce it. They may be negotiating with the school. There may be posturing. There's a million things. And you can apply the exact same logic to UCLA. Exact same. These kids pick coaches, not schools, far more often than not. And it's just the way it is. College football is just that way. I travel around the country to talk to recruits, and I talk to a lot of 7-on-7 coaches, trainers, different high school coaches. It's always the same deal. Always. Recruits pick coaches. That's just the way it is. And once they get to that school and start playing, they don't want to be uprooted in terms of who's in front of them at the podium at the team meeting. They don't want to have anybody different. That's their strength coach. They don't want to have anybody different. That's their position coach. They want the same thing. And so do their families. So do the people around them. So here's my question. In today's world, what can a school like Virginia Tech or UCLA do to make it better? There are 2 things that I can think of that are obvious. After that, you're on your own because I think it gets very dicey. Number 1, some of the assistants around, they better be totally bought into and fill in the blank of the school. But for this sake, Virginia Tech or UCLA, to help keep kids there. Somebody they can lean on to help them through a difficult time. Number 2, you better be ready. Here it is again, that famous word, money, M-O-N-E-Y, money. Some of these kids just to play the rest of this year, you're probably going to have to spend some more NIL. You can like that, you can dislike that, but if you really want to go into the toilet, don't spend any money. You may be better off letting some kids walk too, if that's all they're about. I get it, but it's a very awkward situation for a school going through a coaching change. If you're getting blitzkrieged, I just use UCLA as an example. They got beat at the Rose Bowl 35-10 by the University of New Mexico, and it wasn't that close. They had 298 yards rushing. If they lose a handful of guys that are magically redshirting or just not playing hard, whether they're on the field or not, how is that going to help you attract the next coach? Trying times. Both Virginia Tech and UCLA are also losing recruits. I checked right before the show. 6 players had decommitted from the Bruins 2026 recruiting class. 6. Just since DeShaun Foster had been let go. One guy as of this morning when I checked for Virginia Tech, but it's a good offensive tackle from in-state. There will probably be more. They got about 10 kids committed. The buzzards are going to come for the recruits. It's going to happen. So my question for both these programs, do you have the right coaches on staff to help kind of like galvanize? I guess that's the best word. Do you have the coaches on staff to galvanize? If not, Virginia Tech and UCLA are in a heap of trouble because you're going to see a lot of 4-game red shirts in that program. Both the programs are probably going to go into the heat, and it could be 2-10, 3-9 kinds of seasons. Really hard to attract recruits or a head coach when you're 2-10, 3-9. That's just the way it is. Both Virginia Tech and UCLA are up against it. They're going to need their assistants to be very loyal, and they're going to need their boosters to pony up for NIL. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. If you have not already, become an everydayer, subscribe, like this podcast, and we will see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.